Welcome. What is up? Welcome to the Mixer. I'm your host, RC. I'm joined by my co-host here, Jeff. How you doing? Welcome back.
What up, man? Glad to be back.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. First things first. Don't forget, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. The Mixer is the name, and all our social channels at FCY Mixer, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, don't forget, take our survey. Let us know what we can do better. Let us know the content you want, that sort of thing. Link is in the show notes. Click it. Super easy. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your browser. Yeah. Survey Monkey for the win. Um, Housekeeping done. We should get to tilts, although this show is kind of just a long tilt. But Jeff, you got any tilts, any pain points in your life at the moment?
No, things are going really well right now, so nothing to
Yeah,
really complain about.
yeah.
How
Also, your
about you?
power grid's still working.
I am still working just fine.
Okay, good deal, good deal. Thoughts and prayers to all the people in Texas. Real thoughts and prayers. Rough situation there. So, if anybody has any family there, um, yeah, we send them our best. Having spent winters in Ohio, although it being very brief, only a few weeks at a time, I know what it is. I have a slim idea, at least, of how you need to rely on power, energy, heating, and all that when it's in the tens of degrees as a high for weeks on end. It really, I remember wearing a jacket inside with the heater on, cranked to like 40 or something. So, yeah, it's I can imagine it is a rough go there. Um, Anywho, we're as mentioned last week, we're gonna go over the stadium, right? The stadium just brick by brick, almost literally is being pulled down. It's kind of agonizing in the rare times that I do have to drive by the freeway nowadays. It used to be a daily part of my travel or commute to work, and now every time I see it, it seems like another, you know, 20% of the stadium's missing from the last time. So
Yeah.
a lot of special memories there. So I just wanted to go over the history of the stadium, our personal experiences, somewhat as a tribute to an arena that has given so much to at least my life. I mean, not a ton, not super important, but a lot of time spent with family and friends and loved ones there, and not just physically there, but watching sports on TV and that sort of thing. So, any opening thoughts, Jeff, before we get into the history of the stadium? We're gonna go over like personal stuff, but I don't know how do you feel driving by the stadium of late, if you even have. Well, do you still live in Serra Mesa, which is kind of near?
No. We did for a little while. We were in Tirisana. But no, we're in Lakeside.
Okay.
But I drove by what is a week ago, something like that, and I think like seems like there's only like 10-20% of the stadium left at this point.
Yeah, it's hardly
Um,
anything.
yeah, and you know, I haven't gone there much in recent years, right? The Padres aren't there anymore. If there's a team in San Diego that I would like to see in person, it's generally the Padres. So like we've been more Petco. I
It's not the
also
fleet.
personally, I mean, I almost bought season tickets, but um, no, I mean, I think for me personally, I would also rather watch football at home. It's just a better viewing experience. Although the in-person experience is a lot of fun as well. Um, but like my parents had season tickets to the Chargers when they were here. We'd go to an Aztec game once a year, maybe it's Sky Show game or whatever. Um, we'll get into the personal stuff later, but it
Yeah.
was kind of surprising seeing how much of it is gone.
Yeah, without
You
much
know,
fanfare. I mean, I don't watch local news, but I mean, I follow all the local news places on Twitter, and they'll like say, "Oh, this is what the stadium looks like," and that's the extent of their update.
right. And it was a little surprising to me, especially with how stadiums are generally taken down these days. I think of like the Kingdome in Seattle, and other stadiums that we've seen that get imploded and they're gone in a second, right? And this has taken months,
Yeah, it's those
right?
lib
Because of the
hippies,
way.
man. They're
But yeah,
environmental.
I know, right? It's just crazy to see it in its state now, and just it's going to be gone here in the next, you know, fairly soon. And just how many times, thinking about how often you were there, right? Is just
Yeah,
kind of like, oh wow.
yeah.
So
Yeah, all joking aside, I think the reason why they are taking it down is because of its proximity to the San Diego River. I think it is like there's legitimate
issues,
environmental reasons why they have to deconstruct it the way they are. It's not like
yeah,
a cost saving thing or anything. Which I mean, I joke and I kid, but I a bit of an environmentalist myself, so yeah, I mean, I'm glad they're following those regulations. Um, Anywho, I mean, just before we get into it as well, don't worry. There's going to be plenty of time to talk about the big news. Tatis got extended. I got my El Nino shirt on. So I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. But yeah, I mean, we got a little while before baseball starts, and so there's time to talk about that. Um, but let's get into it. Let's get into the stadium history to start things off. Get us in the frame of mind about how our dearly uh, SDCCU Stadium, formerly Qualcomm Stadium, formerly Jack Murphy Stadium, and then originally San Diego Stadium. We got through all the names, I think. Oh, so it was Snapdragon Stadium briefly because of a new microchip for Qualcomm,
yeah.
but for like a week. But yeah, that was weird. But anyway, how it came to be. So, back in the '60s, a San Diego Union Tribune writer, Jack Murphy, basically lobbied for a new stadium. The Chargers, stop me if you've heard this before, were threatening to leave. They were threatening to leave to Anaheim. They used to play at Balboa Stadium, which I think is like a high school football field now. I'm not sure exactly where. Is that uni? I don't
I
know.
was I was gonna say I think it's San Diego High, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. Uni is in La Jolla, I think. Anyway, I can't remember. But yeah, they played down somewhat downtown, and I mean, you could look up the pictures. Yeah, I mean, it was basically a field with a track around it and like bleachers, just straight
Yeah.
bleachers. I mean, like a high school football field, basically an entry level high school football field. So, um, and Mission Bay was the original first choice. It wasn't going to be in Mission Valley. They were looking at putting it in the Bay, which, funny enough, when I was, you know, balls deep in stadium rumor, I was like, why don't they put it in Mission Bay? Shelter or not? What, Fiesta Island? There's nothing on Fiesta Island. Like, let's just pave over
Oh,
that and
you just want to get rid of
over the line.
um, yeah,
They could do it in the parking lot. Why not? Build a big sand pit. I don't know. They could have done anyway. But I mean, as ridiculous that idea sounds, their original idea was even crazier. I suggest you look this up. I hadn't really heard of this before doing research, I mean, maybe I had and I just kind of deleted it from my mind. But there's a website. It's called thisgreatgame.com. If you look up Qualcomm Stadium on there, they have like the history of Qualcomm Stadium. So I think when this article was written, that's it was still under the Qualcomm name. But basically, what they
Yeah.
wanted to do was they were going to build a baseball field and a football field on a little strip of land. And so there was two separate fields, and the baseball field was at the end of like this kind of what do you call that? Like an inlet or peninsula, like a strip of land that extended out into the bay. So it was surrounded on most sides by water, and then they had another strip connecting to it where the football field would be. And then
Yeah.
they wanted to build these portable stands that would float on the water. And then depending on who was having the game, the Padres or the Chargers, they would float the stands to that field. So I mean, if you look online, that the design is crazy. I mean, it's something.
Right.
It's an idea. You know, I mean, multi-purpose stadiums and multi-purpose use fields was the big thing back in the 60s, 70s, I think even into the 80s. And if you look at a lot of the old stadiums that have been replaced, they were multi-use fields. Like I can't like Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, right? That was the original one. Riverfront Stadium, I think, was in Cincinnati. I can't remember where the Braves used to play, but I think they shared a stadium with the Falcons for a while. I don't. Did the Braves play in the Georgia Dome before? I don't know. The
I don't think
Astrodome.
so. Yeah,
The Astrodome, because didn't the Oilers play there?
I believe so.
Yeah, so there was a bunch of multi-use things, like, oh, in Seattle, the Mariners and the Seahawks used to play in the same place. Like it's hard to believe that, all these teams that have had their own stadiums for so long, but were kind of, the basis for what Jack Murphy Stadium became. But anyway, yeah, look that up. That is just this crazy design. And yeah. So the stadium opened in Mission Valley in 1967. They decided that the the Mission Bay option was not really feasible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wish they would have pulled it off. That would have just been hilarious. And what is San Diego's fascination with putting stuff on the water? It's always like there's rumors of the airport, them having the floating airport forever. I mean, I remember reading about that in like fifth grade or third grade or something, that San Diego was going to have a floating airport. So maybe
Yeah.
that's what
I
we should.
mean,
Should we have a floating podcast, Jeff?
we could.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I think it's more of trying to use the resources around you,
Uh huh.
right? San Diego, in terms of size, San Diego County is quite large.
Uh huh.
It takes a lot of area, and you can't really build an airport up, right? Like you need a lot of space for it. So I think they just kind of look for where they could make a lot of space. And
And they want to do it off the coast, just like the Ensenada aliens.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, got it. All right. We are now a floating podcast. I'm gonna start broadcasting in my daughter's kiddie pool.
There you go.
All right. So anyway, the stadium opened 1967, Mission Valley. It became known as Jack Murphy Stadium after he passed away. I believe it was in 1981. Well, it was in 1981 when it became Jack Murphy Stadium, and it went by the name Jack Murphy Stadium from 81 to 97. From 97 to 2017, it was known as Qualcomm Stadium. It then became SDCCU Stadium, kind of because the Chargers were leaving.
Yeah.
It hosted 3 Super Bowls: Super Bowl 22, Super Bowl 32, and Super Bowl 37. It hosted 2 MLB All-Star Games in 1978 and 1992, and 2 World Series games, one in 84 and one in 98. I mean, do the math on why there was only 2 games ever there. And it is currently and probably may always be the only stadium to host a World Series and a Super Bowl in the same year in 1998. So,
Yeah, I would be surprised if another stadium takes that because all the teams now are doing their individual stadiums, right? Like you're not really getting those dual purpose stadiums anymore.
it would take a very unusual set of circumstances, which, I mean, we just went through the year 2020. So, not
Right.
impossible, but improbable.
Not like
Um, so yeah, I mean that's the historics of it all. I'm sure there's other stuff. There was the obviously seed expansion for the Super Bowl that was there in '98. Um, that's what kind of led to the renaming, it becoming Qualcomm Stadium, because I believe they paid for a portion of that, and they did that so they could host more Super Bowls. They got that one, and
yeah,
then they got the other one, and then that was kind of when it turned from being a shared use stadium to being like the Chargers Stadium, and the Padres
right.
just kind of played there. So, I mean, in the long run, that kind of contributed to the Chargers leaving. But anywho, um, yeah, that's the history of the stadium. Some notable events that have been there. So, there have been a lot of concerts. I got this list from Wikipedia, so I feel like some are missing. But the Rolling Stones have played there 3 times. The first time in 1981. It says ZZ Top, Blue Oyster Cult, and Johnny Edgar in the Winter, who I don't even know was listed as the first concert there in 1976, and the concert name was Worldwide Texas Tour. So I mean, what better place to host the Worldwide Texas Tour than San Diego, California? Maybe they misbooked that. Isn't there a San Diego, Texas? Maybe this is wrong, and somebody just messed that up. The Who have played there twice. Guns N' Roses and Metallica played there together. That would have been a hell of a show. I think my dad actually went to that show in 1992. Pink Floyd played there in 94. The Eagles also in 94. One of the Stones trips there was in 94. This is Seal open for the Rolling Stones. Wow.
There you go.
This is a trip down memory lane, man. Billy Joel and Elton John, like, aren't they the same guy? They play together in '95. They're basically the same guy, like piano player, singer songwriter. I mean, I'm Team Elton all the way, but like this is not a Billy Joel podcast, so get out of here with that. Jeff, this is more your territory. NSYNC played there in 2001.
Yeah,
Stone
and
Temple
nothing wrong with a little NSYNC.
Wow. Stone Temple Pilots played the reunion tour there in 2008 with Wolfmother and Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. Okay. Bob Dylan played there in 2008. Did he? Some of these are very questionable. I do not remember anything about a Bob Dylan show. One Direction in 2015. There's kind of a resurgence in the middle teens of
Yeah,
concerts at the stadium. One Direction, Beyonce, Guns N' Roses in 2016, which I saw. U2 in 2017, which I saw. Back open for them. Coldplay 2017. Fun fact: I got engaged at that show. So special memory there that I will
there you
always
go.
have. Awesome show. And then Beyonce, the last concert there, in 2018 with Jay-Z. So I mean, Queen Bee closed it out. The Rolling Stones were supposed to do a show there. They announced that. I think it was supposed to be this year, or maybe it was
Yeah,
supposed to be the end of last year, but then COVID hit. So, um, yeah, kind of a bummer that the Stones didn't get to be the last show there, since they've been there the most. And I mean, they put on a hell of a show. I saw them at Petco. I saw them at Old Cella and yeah, so I think I've only seen them twice, but they're
Nice.
really good. They're really good band live. They're freaking ancient. So, did you go to any of these shows, Jeff? Besides NSYNC and One Direction?
I did not. I've never been the biggest live music fan. I'm much more of a enjoyment when it comes to music. So like concerts like that were never huge to me. I went to the ones that were like if someone played after a game or something, those type of things, which you get occasionally, but not all that often.
Gotcha. Yeah, it said they did like concerts on the lawn or something, which I guess was probably some, no name bands, and I don't ever remember there being a lawn there, but that
Right.
was like in the 70s, so
Yeah.
not really worth mentioning. However, there was one other one I do remember this. It hosted Street Scene in 2005, the year I graduated high school. And listen to
Dang,
this lineup,
you're
man.
old.
I mean, this is like, if Coachella rolled out this lineup now, I mean, it's better than what they've been putting out, but mostly because they're having like DJs sets at Coachella. But the White Stripes headlined, and I mean, that's not Jack White. That is the White Stripes, like the peak of the White Stripes. The Killers, Snoop Dogg, 311, the Black Eyed Peas, the Pixies, Garbage, The Used, which was a high school favorite of mine, the Flaming Lips, Method Man, Unwritten Law, Flogging Molly, Dashboard Confessional. So I mean, all the emo kids were happy. Social D, Death Cab for Cutie, probably before Death Cab really broke out. Well, I guess that would have been kind of when they started.
I was just saying
Kasabian,
that time.
yeah, Kasabian, I don't know who that is. Hot Hot Heat, Rise Against, and Louis the 14th. So, yeah, I mean, pretty good lineup there.
It's better than any lineup the Pods were putting out in those days.
Zing. Um. So, and then of course we got to get into the major sports moments here. Garvey's walk-off home run, 1984 against the Cubs. I think, is that Game 4? I don't know exactly. I didn't note it down here, but that's a huge one. It's probably the biggest sports moment there. To be honest, I don't know how you would top that. At least from a hometown perspective, the '94.
Yeah, in terms of mattering too, right?
Yeah,
Like is a huge home run.
yeah. They were like down in the series, and it brought them back, and it took the team to their first World Series. So yeah, huge moment. The '94 divisional round win by the Chargers against the Dolphins, which I mean, if you get a chance, I think that game's on YouTube. I suggest watching it. The refereeing in that game was totally terrible. There's the classic story of how the Dolphins lost power at halftime in their locker room, which coincidence that only the Dolphins locker room was affected. I don't, we're not conspiracy theorists here. We just connect the dots. LT breaking the TD record in 2006 against the Broncos. I watched that one on TV. That was an awesome special moment. In the 1998 home run race, I mean, it was a great year for sports in general, and especially San Diego, because the Padres made the World Series. The stadium hosted the Super Bowl, and then we had the home run chase in '98 too. And Sammy Sosa hit home run number 63 on September 16th. It was a grand slam in the top of the 8th inning. The Cubs were down, and it put them ahead. And it also tied Mark McGwire in the home run race at the time, so they were both at 63. Sammy, I was a huge Sammy Sosa fan. He was my favorite athlete as a kid.
Sammy was a lot of fun.
Sadly, I was not at this game. I was so mad. I was so mad when I think I watched it on TV. But I was mad that I wasn't there. But yeah, I mean that was a huge event, and pretty much McGwire just distanced himself from Sammy after that. But at the time, that was huge, and it's probably the biggest home run besides, McGwire breaking 62 and then getting what, like 69, nice, and 70, which I mean,
70, right? Yeah.
yeah, at the end of the season, I think the last two games he hit two, so he had like four home runs in the last two games. He had like two multi-home run
Yeah.
games in the season. Anyway, obviously those were bigger, but I mean this one was pretty notable in a historic summer.
Yeah.
The longest home run ever hit in the stadium was in 1988. I had to double check this, and I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, everything I read said this happened in 1988, not 1998. It was by Mark McGwire,
Yeah.
10 years before he would set the record. He hit one 499 feet. And I believe in the 98 season, since that was the longest home run, they had that seat where McGwire hit that home run 10 years before, like painted white, and then when Sammy hit his 63, they painted it white with a red dot or something, and they had it like that for years. I mean, it was like 10
Yeah.
years. If you could look where left field used to be, those two seats were stood out, and that's why. So it was almost like a little Easter egg
Nice.
at the stadium. So they did take it away after a while when Spanos probably realized, hey, why are those seats white? It's like, oh, it's baseball.
Took him 10
Get out of
years.
here. Anyway, yeah, I remember as a kid I used to always like look for those seats.
Yeah.
There were 3 no-hitters pitched in the stadium, none by the Padres. So Doc Ellis was the first one in June of 1970. AJ Burnett did it in 2001, and yeah, Bud Smith did it in 2001 as well. The Padres were no-hit twice in their own stadium, and I think that was their final year there too. So really, really tough scene.
Going out on a high note.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, Jeff, these are the notable events that I remembered, that I found. I did solicit for ideas, but sadly, I didn't get too much. Or most of the responses that I got were like, personal memories, and I guess that makes sense.
Right.
Like a lot of people weren't there for huge events, but they do remember the times they spent with their family.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into the personal stuff. Let's start with you, Jeff. I've been talking for a while. What are some of your favorite memories at the stadium?
Well, my favorite memory comes as a non-Padre fan, being at World Series Game 3 in 1998,
Uh-huh.
and watching my Yankees win. At the time I was 10, and the Yankees were my favorite team in any sport, and that was by far my favorite memory in that stadium. After that, it goes more towards like the environment, like the uniqueness of the stadium with the spiral like walkways. Those were always awesome. I loved the palm trees just past the outfield wall
Yeah.
that were there for a while. And then probably up until really last year, my favorite Padre team. I hate to say this because my Yankees did beat them, but that 98 team was probably my favorite incarnation of the Padres, right? I know it was my wife's favorite,
Yeah.
with Steve Finley, Ken Caminiti, Kevin Brown, like
Yeah. I mean, how could it
Tony
not
was
be?
there. Right. And they're just, even now, like watching their highlights and stuff is a lot of fun to look back on. But yeah, I mean, for me is mostly early in life is mostly the baseball games that I remember. Much more into that when I was younger. As I got older, obviously baseball left Qualcomm and went to Petco. So as I got older, it definitely was football because that's the only reason we were there. And then it was really, I'd go to a Charger game probably once a year, if not more. Like I said, my parents had season tickets, so they'd give me the tickets every once in a while to just go with friends. So we do that. So it's awesome getting to watch, LT in his prime, one of the best running backs ever, do his thing there. You get to watch Phillip, saw Drew before he became Drew Brees. And then obviously watching San Diego State when I knew people playing for them, watching some of the CIF games with the high schools, every year that's where they'd finish. And, when we were in high school, right, that's what you were playing for. You're trying to make it to the stadium, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, I'm sure teams still do it, but like a lot of times, like we would, once we were done, we would kind of just watch, right, the playoffs, and we go to those CIF games and stuff. And, the cool thing was you could go there, in the morning. They would start at like 9 or 10,
Yeah,
and you'd
the
watch like
freaking
5
D5
games throughout the
schools.
day. Yeah, you could watch like 5 games throughout the day, and you're just
Yeah.
at the stadium all day. That was always a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, just the whole environment. Like I said, I've never been the most. I enjoy watching sports. I enjoy watching them. At home, you generally get better viewing angles, stuff like that. But the environment, being around people, they're excited. You get the shitty food, but it's great, right? And like I said, Qualcomm had some unique features in the sense of those spiral walkways, right?
Yeah.
Trying to find your way in was always a hassle as well, with such a large parking lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, how about you, Rob?
Oh man, so many memories. So many memories. I'm glad you brought up some of the features of the stadium. I mean, just getting in there every time could be a challenge, but the San Diegans, the true San Diegans, they had their way. They had their time. They knew when to show up. They knew when to get their spots. I mean, people were lined up before Charger games at 8 a.m. to get there. I remember they would sometimes, when the Chargers were really going, they would have to close the parking lots at like 10 because they were full up. I would always go in the back way by McGregor's. What road is that? Is it Murphy Canyon?
I know what you're talking about. We would do that a
Mission
lot too.
Mission Road
before the game, and then in.
Yeah. That was the meta. That was the meta to go Mission Road through that back entrance, try to park as close to the exit as you can, and then you could just get out. Otherwise, if you got stuck in like the inner ring, you were fucked. I mean, 3 hours to get out of there. I remember one time we parked over by the trolley to watch a sky show. That was a bad idea. Bad idea. But yeah,
I remember parking in the inner ring, and then we would, like, if you knew you were doing it, we would go to like McGregor's afterwards, and chill for a while, and then walk back and get the car later.
Yeah, that's the way you had to do it. That was the only way to do it. And yeah, McGregor's later in life, I would definitely pregame there, and McGregor's isn't gonna be on the Travel Channel or anything, but it's a great San Diego bar, and they're probably hurting because of COVID and then the Chargers leaving. But anywho, so support McGregor's if you can. A lot of good memories at that place. My first memory of the stadium, I mean, I don't know. I was very young. It might even be one of my just first memories. Went to a Potter game. I feel like the Padres were still wearing either the brown and orange, or maybe even the yellow. I can't remember completely, but I remember being in right field. It was before the expansion, obviously, and it was underneath one of the billboards over there, and like eating a hot dog, and it was night. I mean, I barely remember anything. I think I fell asleep. I was there with my dad, my mom. I mean, I was a kid. I was a baby. I mean, I maybe was 3 or something, but I do remember going there, and then I also went every year to see the monster trucks for a while because I was a little boy, so I love that stuff. And one of my favorite memories and another little moment in stadium history was one year. I can't remember what year it was. It must have been mid 90s, maybe 95, 96. Grave Digger.
Okay.
Um, lost the tire, like just aired it up. The suspension on those monster trucks back in the mid 90s are nowhere near the same tech level as they are now. Um, but anyway, like the spindle or the axle snapped off, and the tire just went like barreling, and it hit the wall. I think there still is a tunnel under the scoreboard. Yeah, because that's where they bring in all the shit. But yeah, it hit just to the left of that tunnel, and it put a hole in the wall, or it broke the concrete or something. And for the longest time, they had a tarp over it. They just didn't fix it. And I mean, for like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years, there was just like this
Yeah.
tarp over it. They probably fixed it when they were hosting the next Super Bowl. But yeah, that was another thing I remember going there and I'd be like, that's a Gravedigger did that. And I've actually looked that up on YouTube to see if there's any video of it. I'm sure there is
Yeah.
somewhere, but I can't find it. So, I mean, if anybody has pictures of that or video that they've seen, like send it my way. I would love to see that. I just remember always like that was as a kid, that was one of the first things I would think about. I saw Robosaurus there, this robotic car eating, flame breathing, dinosaur looking thing.
Dinosaur.
Yeah, man. I
There
thought
you
he
go.
was the coolest as a kid. The Supercross, being a SoCal kid, extreme sports, X Games
Oh
and all
my
that I was
god.
into. But I used to go to Supercross too, and I saw Travis Pastrana there, who was, an idol. And he raced in 2 classes, which I don't think has been done again, at least not regularly. But I mean, the guy is a nut,
Yeah.
and he raced in
Well,
125 and the 250 class, and so that I mean that's like Jimmy Johnson doing the Indy 500, and or no, it was Robbie Gordon who would always do the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same days. But yeah,
yeah.
that
Well,
was.
a fun little Supercross fact for fantasy people is they do daily fantasy for Supercross.
Oh, they
I
do?
found this last year. Yeah, so I don't think it happens on DraftKings or
Oh,
like
okay.
FanDuel, but I went to my first Supercross event last year at Petco,
Uh-huh.
and Samantha took me, and I will say I do wish I'd gone to more to them when I was younger. It was a lot of fun. So anyone that, like, if you have an opportunity to go. It's fun.
Yeah, I've
But
been to a few.
yeah, while I was there, they started talking about like who's gonna win and this and that. I saw all these advertisements for like Supercross Fantasy. I was baffled, but like super intrigued at the same time. Just figured I'd throw that out there for everyone.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up because I used to watch all the. I mean, I wouldn't go to all of them, but I mean, I'm just a racing fan, and I used to ride dirt bikes out in the desert and stuff. I mean, I'm not like for people that are listening to us, that may not know us. Those few out there, those international downloads that we're getting, which may or may not be bots, but hey, they're there. And if you are one of those people, like I'd love to hear from you. Just I mean, just say hi because yeah, I want to get to know our audience, albeit not huge at the moment, but like talk to us if you like listening to us, like talk to us. We're not getting that many messages, so but anyway, I'm not like that Cali bro, brop, right? But I did have a Jeep Wrangler for a while, so and I did spend many Thanksgivings out at Glamis, um and superstition. But yeah, I mean, I used to have a dirt bike, so I would fall, and I used to race BMX, but never motocross. But I used to watch it. So I still do enjoy watching it when I can. I don't know the guys as much as I used to, but yeah, I'll have to look that up. Um, so yeah, Travis Pastrana. I mean, not gonna make any Wikipedia page, but he was doing it. That I think it was the 2001 season, maybe. But yeah, he was racing in both classes, and I saw him do that, which at the time,
Nice.
pretty fucking cool. Sky shows. I mean, I've been to so many Sky shows. The one that stood out to me the most was the year 2000. I believe it was a pottery game. It must have been. Um, and I mean, once they switched to the Aztec games, it just didn't have the same vibe. But and also the radio station sucked after that. But anywho, they had a 2000 firework finale for the year 2000, and it was just those like white, kind of loud, not the big explosion ones, but just the like really loud ones. And I mean, it was just like that Big Bay Boom disaster from 4th of July a few years ago that you can find videos of online. But yeah, I mean, it was just 2000 of those, one right after the other. And yeah, I mean, we were right underneath it too. It was right after, I mean, you talked about the spiral ramps. In the back, well, I say the back, which I guess is the south side of the stadium. In that area where they put in the new, I call them the new seats. They put them in fucking 97. Back by the scoreboard, they were kind of like the more modern, not cylindrical. They were more like a rectangle shape, and we were at the top of those, which is right underneath where they shoot off the fireworks. And man, yeah, that was wild. Maybe not the smartest thing, but we were right underneath it. So cool stuff. You already mentioned the CIF football games. I actually only went to one. And I think it was the year Alex and Reggie Bush were on the team, and they lost that year. Like the year they won wasn't even that. I mean, they made CIF finals all 4 years when I was at Helix, but I think they lost to Monte Vista, they lost to Oceanside twice, and they beat Oceanside once. And the one time they beat Oceanside, it was like, I think it was the year after Alex left and Reggie was hurt. But I think he was just waiting to go to USC. Right. They ran a fumble Rooski. They ran a trick play, and then they won like 13-6 or something. It was not an exciting game, but hey, they got one.
Right.
So that was fun. And then another time, another kind of non-Charger, non-Padre memory that I have is I went and saw Mexico versus Chile, and that was, I think, pre the last World Cup, the Brazil World Cup. It was like a tune-up game. I mean, it was a friendly, but they rolled out a lot of the big players, like Arturo Vidal was out there. Alexi Sanchez was out there for Chile. And Mexico obviously had a lot of their players, and I mean that atmosphere, man, that was something else. It felt like, I mean, I've been to big Potter games there, I've been to big Charger games there, and it was on the same level. And then it was 0-0 most of the game, and then Chicharito got a goal in like the 86th minute or something.
The greatest Mexican soccer player of all time.
And the stadium, I mean, it was obviously 95% Mexico fans just went ballistic, man. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, mainly because everybody just threw their beer, man. I mean, it was just like raining beer everywhere, dude. It was crazy. I was with some Mexico fans, so that was pretty wild. I wore my Arsenal jersey there for Sanchez.
Oh my god.
Yeah, nobody gave me shit though. It was a friendly. I guess, and I think most of them, they don't really know like all the international players. They just know Mexico. So a little brave on my part, but I didn't get too much.
You
shit.
didn't get too much.
No.
There you go.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Like tailgating for that game was awesome. So yeah, that
I
was
will say,
go ahead.
yeah, tailgating at Qualcomm was one of the best things ever.
Oh
It was one of
man,
the best environments, right? Like,
the best. The
oh
best. I tailgated at the Dignity Sports Health Park, the freaking Home Depot Center, or whatever it used to be called, in Carson
yeah,
for the Chargers. I mean, it was okay. It was okay. Still had a good
right.
vibe, but I mean, just like all the kids throwing footballs out in the rings, and then the freaking cops coming by and telling everybody to pick their chairs up and shit. One time I went
Oh
there. I
yeah,
went there for a Jets playoff game against the Chargers, which the Chargers lost. It was the only playoff game I've been to. It was one of those times where I mean they opened the gates at 6. I got down there at like 7:30, and everybody was
yeah.
already drinking. And there was this big dude with a freaking with an apron on, and these Jets fans drove by, and he's like, "Hey," like waving at him, and then they looked at him, and then he pulls up the apron, and he had this, I mean, the biggest dildo I've ever seen in person tied around his waist, and he's like, chinga tu madre, cabrón. It's just like, what is going on? It's 7:45 in the morning. I was like,
That is
this.
so great.
It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Yeah, man. Uh, it was. Yeah, I missed the. I missed the. I'm gonna miss the atmosphere there, for sure. And then obviously all the Charger memories. I mean, I was there when they welcomed back the team from winning the AFC Championship game against the Steelers. I remember like
Yeah,
walking through the fucking runoff water that goes under the 15 there to get, because there was no parking. I mean, people were parking down on the riverside, um,
right.
everywhere. I mean, the stadium, or the freeways around the stadium were just complete parking lots. People were parking on the freeway. It was wild. They said there was like 90,000 people in there. I mean, there was no room to sit. The whole aisles were filled. It was crazy. I saw Ryan Leaf's first start. That was actually the first Charger game I went to, and they won. They beat the Bills. Doug Flutie came in because they hurt the Bills starting quarterback, who I can't remember who it was at the time, but that was pretty wild. I saw Rivers first start against the Chiefs. It was a year when they made the playoffs, so they were resting Drew Brees. Um, I saw the Chiefs Charger game in 2013. I think they snuck into the playoffs because of some crazy scenario. It was at McGregor's. They like needed the Ravens to lose, the Steelers to lose, and then like the Titans to lose, or something. They needed like 3 teams to lose, and they were all in the morning games. And I was at McGregor's watching the morning games, and they all lost. So all of a sudden, it's a play-in game, and that
Yeah,
game went to overtime. It was the one where Weddle did the audible in their own territory, like on their own 30, did a sneak to go for it, and got it. They won that game. That was, besides the Chile Mexico game, that was probably the craziest I've ever seen in person sports event. I went to a Bengals game in 2009 with Matt, a good friend of ours, and that was probably the loudest I ever heard the stadium. Um, I was at the Jay Cutler, Phillip Rivers Sunday night football game to end. I can't remember which season it was, but it was the one where they were yelling at each other. I was there. I've actually never
right.
seen that game on TV. I've looked for the broadcast. I can't find it.
That was
Um,
Bronco Jay Cutler, right?
yeah, yeah, Bronco Jay Cutler, and they beat him like 50-12 or 50-13 or something. It was just absolute destruction. I mean, there were so many drunk people around us that game. I went to Seau's memorial, which was sad. A lot of players, John Elway, John Lynch were there. Like Steve Young was there. LT was there. It was another unique event, but
Right.
it was a big one. I went. I saw the Thursday night football game there against the Broncos, and I almost felt like I was gonna get kicked out. I was drunkenly shouting at people to get the F out of our stadium. This was when, I mean, rumors of them leaving was at its peak, and everybody saying other fans were invading the stadium. So I was particularly angry that night. Not one of my prouder moments, but the Chargers won. So, and I think that was the year the Broncos went to the Super Bowl.
There you go.
I went to one Raider game. That was
You only went to one?
a mistake. Yeah, and it was a mistake. I mean, everything you heard about Raider games is true, is all I'm gonna say.
I will say I did go to a few Charger Raider games over the years, and
Nice.
I always enjoyed them. But I tend to be very neutral, right? So like I don't get involved a whole lot. I just enjoy watching everyone else go at each other.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't too much of that. It was just an uncomfortable environment, I'll just say.
Right.
And my last memory at the stadium, of course, is the Chargers loss. It was the Chargers against Bucks. The Chargers were ahead most of the game. Fourth quarter, like mid-fourth quarter, Phillip throws one to Travis Benjamin, who's streaking down the sidelines, and it just goes right through his hands. And I was like, well, we're going to lose this game. And then like 2 possessions later, back-to-back touchdowns for the Bucks. They win. And that's all she wrote, which is my final lasting memory of the Chargers side. You know, for Padre games, I was there for Hoffman getting save number 80, I think, or save number 50, sorry, in like 99 or something. It was not the World Series year, but there were some years after that where the team wasn't great, but Hoffman was still getting a lot of saves. I mean, Trevor Time at Qualcomm was, I mean, the best.
It was awesome. That's where, hearing Hell's Bells come out, lights go out, all that, so it was just one of those things like you kind of had to be there to really know what was going on.
Yeah. And another, I mean, I'm just going off a whole list here, but I've been there so many times. I mean, it's got to be close to 100. It's definitely more than 50 times that I've been there. So I think the first time I went, that I remember when I was like 10 with my dad, we were trying to catch home run balls in batting practice. And like the very first game we went to was probably his best shot, where he reached over the rail in the outfield to grab one, and this guy stuck his glove right in front of him.
Oh, man.
And snagged it. I mean, his glove was in my dad's glove, and missed it.
That sucks.
And then another memory that I have from batting practice was the year that interleague play opened up. I think it was 96. I want to say the A's came to town. It was an A's day game. I think it was the first interleague game the Padres played. And I mean, they had Canseco and they had McGuire, and it was a day game. So I mean, like noon, Mission Valley, summer, hot. The ball was flying. These guys were putting, I mean, it must have been 30 home runs hit into the upper deck. I'm not even exaggerating in batting practice. I mean, it was the full freaking Balco era.
Right.
I mean, I'd never seen anything like it. And the ball were hitting the seats up there because nobody was up there. And I mean, it was just exploding. You could hear the thud around the whole stadium from what they were doing. And it was like they were competing against each other, man. Have you ever sat in those seats up there and like looked at home plate to see how far away it is? It
seems like it's forever.
Yeah, it just blows my mind. I'm like, how could somebody send something from there to here using only their body and a stick? It's just, and anyway, and maybe some cork in their batting practice bats, a la Sammy Sosa.
Except they didn't forget to leave it in the dugout.
Yeah, well, I mean, they just didn't get caught, but Yeah, a different topic. Different topic. And then who else? I mean, no better way to end our lasting memory
I mean, I
of the
remember when
stadium.
Ichiro came down the first time.
Oh yeah, yeah, I do remember that. But I mean, Jeff, is there any greater moment in our childhood than the Macarena and the run that it had in '98? They used to
That
play
was
that shit over
everywhere.
and over and over again at the stadium.
Yep,
Anyway,
100%.
it was like,
And if you were there, it was like the wave. You had to do it.
oh yeah. And another fun fact, according to my mom, the wave was invented at a Beach Boys concert, which is also missing from this Wikipedia list, but I know it happened. I think it was after Padre games they used to do a Beach Boy concert or something, and
Yeah,
supposedly the wave was started there, which I doubt, but I mean, we're saying it here. We're media, so it must be true, right? It's on the internet now.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that's it, man. It's been emotional ride. Reliving all that. I know I mean, I just felt like I was doing the Chris Farley bit from SNL when he's talking to Paul McCartney. Remember that time when you did you played Hey Jude? That was awesome, man. I mean, I just felt like that was this whole episode, but had to get it out there. If you guys have memories, let us know. I mean, the stadium has been the heart of San Diego for so long. I mean, I'm saying that obviously in a place as a sports fan, but there were so many other events there. I mean, the concerts that we mentioned, the giant used car tent sale commercials every single freaking weekend, driving
When it wasn't
by.
football season. Oh yeah.
I mean, driving by. I mean, if you live south of the 8, which a lot of us do, we've all had to make those trips to LA. No matter which freeway you take, you drive and you see the stadium, and that's kind of when you feel like you're home. So,
Yeah.
it's just, and I mean, they hosted the races too, like the drag racing in the parking lot. I know a lot of people went to those. They had all kinds of swap meets and stuff. It was just, a lot of things have been there. It's kind of, it's sad that it's going away, but it's time because the Chargers are gone. There's no way around that. And I mean, the center of San Diego is downtown now. It's the East Village, it's Petco Park, it's the convention center with Comic Con, and yeah, it's time that it shifts. And I'm just glad that the Padres are stepping up. They're signing some players. They're gonna they're stamping their foot down. They own San Diego now, and it's appropriate that we're doing this show a few days after Fernando Tatis gets his extension in one of the biggest contracts of all time, and it looks like he's going to be the face of baseball. So it's a sad time that the stadium's gone, but at the same time, it's super exciting. So yeah, it's time to move on from the stadium, and I'm looking forward to the future here with the memories that we can build at Petco and whatever the Aztec Stadium becomes. Any final words, Jeff?
I mean, not really. I thought you summed it up pretty well. It is nice that the Padres seem to be taking the leap and trying to make Petco the center of town now.
Yeah. So with that, we're gonna leave it. Goodbye, the stadium, which has no name. I will miss it. I will miss it, and thank you to that area, to all the people that kept the lights on, to the people that were calling out to other relics and importing salvaged light bulbs to keep the jumbotron working during Charger games. Anyway, thank you to everybody, and thank you for listening. And yeah, share this one around. I think a lot of people will enjoy it. So Jeff, thank you, man. Let's get some PF Changs.
Let's do it.
All right, till next week. Thank you. Later, guys.
See ya.